live on YouTube.
Oh, hey. Hey, YouTube.
I am.
This feels so interesting. It's like I don't know exactly how to put words to, but this feels like, where I was, I always say my nieces were my first babies, before I had my own baby. And Miranda used to be my road dog. Okay?
It was.
She got in all the trouble with me. I think I was 16 when she was born. So, all those rough years of me growing up, she was right along with me. So it's something to be here in this moment. I'm trying not to be emotional. Seeing her all grown up and writing books and whatnot, like her Amy.
I learned from the best. Yes, I followed the best.
Not about to be up here crying. We're not here for that. There's an echo. I feel like I should be singing instead of speaking.
Yeah. She said you could sing the question.
Sing the questions. Wow, so we're here to celebrate and invite everyone into a conversation around transformation, which is your newest book project, right?
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit about you as a writer and how that came to be. You started out with Trouble. I'm sure all of you have a copy of Trouble, this memoir where you talked about so many interesting experiences. Could you imagine reading Trouble as an auntie? I was like, wait, this happened? And so when did this happen? Why you ain't called me? But growing pains are what they are, and folks have to go through what they have to go through in order to become what they need to become. And look at this flower that blossomed from all that dirt. Echo feels like dramatic effect. I have to do that after reading. All right, so we want to start talking about how you began this process of writing. I studied liberal arts. I have degrees in English, always been a writer. You chose a different route in accounting, math, numbers, all those things that I can't do. I'm not so good. But other than that. So what made you want to start writing and start sharing your story, starting with Trouble and then moving into transformation?
The ironic story is I graduated from Sam Houston and I felt empty when I came back. I was still dealing with depression, still dealing with heartbreak. And I couldn't figure out exactly what to do, but I've always been a writer. I've always journaled. I used to journal every day about how long I've been on my nerves, my dad's school, like every day. And I still have those journals from high school, middle school. I've been writing.
It's like Moesha.
Yeah, it's literally, no, seriously. So I've always been a writer, and I came home from Sam Houston and I was like, something's missing. Like I have to release myself, and I wasn't a talker. That's why you're like, why did you tell me this was happening? Because I wasn't a talker. I didn't talk to anybody. So the only thing I knew was to write. And I was asleep one day and I woke up in the middle of the night and something was like, tell your story. And I grabbed a legal pad and a pen and I just started writing. Starting with when my dad died in 2004. And I just kept writing and kept writing and kept writing. And, eventually I started typing it up. And it was like one long journal. And it ended up being 100 pages. So I started from age 11 and then went to 21. And I just kept writing all the stories, the abuse, losing my dad, losing Papa, losing Dennis, my godfather. And once I finished, I was like, okay, what do I do with it now? And I knew I was a reader, like I love to read. So I started reading books and I'm like, well, I can make it a book. And I ended up making it a book, self-publishing on Lulu or Amazon. And once I realized how much it took off, I was like, okay, I can really do this. Like, this is the thing, I'm an actual author now. So that was struggle. And then it took me 10 years, because Mama asked me earlier, how long did it take you to write Transformation? It took me 10 years. Because Christian was only about finishing it. But I had to live life in order to write about life. So I was like, okay, I knew that I wanted trouble, and I knew I wanted triumphant, and I wanted to be a trilogy, but I was like, what's in between? How do you get from trouble to triumphant? You have to go through a transformation. Because the original title was Trouble 2. And I was like, no, it's not giving what I needed to give.
Be out of trouble.
Yeah, I was like, it's not giving what no. And then I was like, transition? Like, no, that's not it. And then if you look in the back of the book, you'll see a prayer that I wrote in 2017, and it's like, God bring me a transformation. Because that was after my grandmother died. And I hadn't come up with the title yet. And I went back years later and found that prayer, and I was like, that's transformation. Because I'm transforming into a different person. I'm going from trouble to triumphant, but it's like, how do you get there? You have to transform. So I ended up writing Transformation, but in between I wrote Renewed Strength, which is a book that I wanted to give to domestic violence victims. That's how that book came about. I wanted something that was going to be able to help victims, help them kind of get through it. I call it the motivational manual. And the steps to becoming a survivor, and there's each letter in survivor is a step. And then I wrote One Flesh. One Flesh was already a blog series on celibacy and sex. So I was like, I can turn this into a book. So I wrote those two books in between. And then all of this I was doing while writing Transformation, which was hard because now I had to go back and change the tense, because then I was talking present tense. So I had to go back and change everything so that I was writing as I went. So that was tough in the stage. But that's how I got from trouble to transformation.
And in the process of all of that, also become your own publisher. You should talk about that. Like, why did you choose to self-publish, and why then did you choose to help other writers publish their stories? Why was that something that was important?
But there are less than 30% Black African American publishers and 10% that are women. So I knew I wanted to be a part of creating a Black publishing company, because there's not very many. Yeah, you know, you have Simons and College, you have all these major Caucasian book publishers, but you know, where are our African American book publishers? Where are our indie authors? People forget about indie authors. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this myself. I didn't want to do Amazon, I don't want to share my royalties. I want all my coin, and I want to be able to push it myself, but Victorian Publishing came about because when I wrote Trouble, my grandmother, Bill, who is now passed, she would have them in her china closet. And anybody who came through the door, my granddaughter got this book called Trouble. You got $10? You got $10? I mean, she was selling like bootleg CDs. Like anybody, you had to buy the book. And so I knew I always wanted to create some type of legacy to honor her. And I was like, okay, I'm thinking, and I'm like, well, what better way to do that than to start Victorian Publishing? Because she was my biggest fan. She was the one who pushed the book, the one who pushed me as an author. So I wanted to self-publish, I wanted to be self-made, I wanted to help other authors create their book, which is how I ended up having clients. I went from an editor to a publisher, because my editor told me, she was like, you are capable of much more than Annie. And I didn't believe her. When I came out with Struggle, she was like, you're capable of so much more. You're going to do something big. I don't know what it is, but you're going to do something big. And that big thing ended up being Victoria Publishing. And that was the story around it. Because I want to increase that percentage of African American publishers and African American libraries. Like, my goal in life is to create a library or a cafe. Because how many of us can walk in, we can't walk in Barnes and Noble as indie authors and put our books on the shelf. Like, I want to be able to have something for indie authors, especially African American, and especially African American authors.
Transformation starts where trouble ended. You want to talk a little bit about the beginning of the book. We're talking about, hey, like, it's been a while. Last time, we talked, I was a hot mess. Now I'm a little less of a hot mess.
Definitely.
Let's talk about it.
Definitely a little less than, I'm still a little hot mess.
A little less than a hot mess. So tell us how transformation begins. I know that we move into the death of Mill, grandmother. But before that, there's a little kind of conversation around your celibacy vows and what it has meant to date in that, the challenges of trying to date and meeting people and liking people and all of that. It's really kind of where you begin with the book.
Yes.
Talking about I was troubled, I was, doing things to and with my body that I had regrets around. So now in this move of transformation, I am taking this vow to be better, to take better care of not only my body, but my mind, my spirit, my heart. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So transformation starts trouble ends with me going to grad school. So transformation, the first chapter is actually called While You Were Gone. So it talks about, it's kind of like a summary. Like, okay, I graduated from TSU with my master's. I became celibate. I started the trouble movement. So there's like a summary of everything that I've done since I entered trouble. And this book is more so to me about, for one, it's very vulnerable because it talks about the battle that I had to fight with mental illness, with the struggles of creating the trouble movement. And I had like the superwoman syndrome where I thought I could just save everybody. So there's actually a line, which I sent you, which is my favorite line. And I struggled with going to therapy, and there's a line where my aunt says, and I remember the conversation, she says, you should go to therapy, and when it helps you can write about it in your next book, which is the premise of the book. So I have conversations with my therapists that are in there. I have conversations. This book is a lot about everybody else. I'm pretty sure a lot of people in this room is a character in the book. I just want to let y'all know. Yeah, y'all in there. So it's about, and then also about me becoming celibate and how it is difficult in the dating world. Like, who accepts it, how they accept it, how the different experiences I had to go through as a celibate woman. And it also talks about, towards the end, I wasn't going to put this part in there, but I was sexually assaulted in 2020. So I decided, let me put that in there. And the reason I put it in there is because it's like, even when you're going through a transformation, even when you're doing what God wants you to do, trials are still going to go. But, and it was right when I was writing On Flesh, it was literally like 2 months before One Flesh came out. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let this happen. I'm still gonna release One Flesh. I'm still gonna release Transformation. I was still in the middle of writing it. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this in there because that's a part of the transformation process. So this book is very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable book because it's like I was open about my life in struggle. I talked about my abuse. I talked about my promiscuity. This one is the exact opposite. It's like, this is where she was. Like, she was giving her body away, and now she's celibate. And she didn't even know what mental illness was, didn't even know what domestic abuse was, none of that, and now she's fighting for it. So my hope is for Triumphant to be both kind of put together, to like, you finally made it to where you always wanted to be. So this book is very, Trouble was open, the transformation, all people saw was the trouble. All people saw was Miranda doing this, Miranda doing that, Miranda in articles, Miranda got all these things going on, but nobody knew what was going on behind the scenes. So this book explains the struggle that I had to go through to get to where I am now. So it's like motivational, but vulnerable at the same time.
Motivational and vulnerable. Vulnerability is such a difficult thing to, we want to keep our armor up, we want to keep our walls up, we don't want to let people in, but it is when we are vulnerable that we create the space that we want to create to like help other people with their transformation. So that's why it's so powerful when we can offer vulnerability in our writing, in our public conversations, when you're on YouTube. Sharing and being vulnerable, it really is, that in itself is transformative. So I want to congratulate you on being open to that because so many people cannot be. So many people struggle with that. The book also talks about you kind of spearheading and starting the trouble movement. I think in the book it talks a little bit about like what motivated you to start the trouble movement. Do you want to share a little bit of that for those who have not read the book yet? Like what motivated you to write Trouble? Well, we know what motivated you to write Trouble. But what motivated you to take that memoir, these stories about your life, and create the Trouble movement to offer alternatives to other young people who might find themselves in the same situations that you were in, and talk about how the movement has grown and what you're most proud of about the movement.
So when I wrote Trouble, I had a lot of women reaching out to me, a lot of girls reaching out to me, like, you're courageous, you told me the story, I've been through the same thing. How did you get the courage to write your book? Like, I just had a swarm of women coming to me, and I was like, you know what? This is when the hashtag, I don't know if y'all remember this, it's a movement was a thing, like, it's a, so I kept saying, like, it's a movement. And I remember I called my mom one day, Mom, I'm about to call you out, I love you. But I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I got this idea, right? I'm gonna come up with a movement, because this book is bigger than me. I wanted to be the person that I needed when I was a teenager. I didn't, like, I had you, I had my mom, but we're a small family. I didn't have anybody I could really open up to, like, that would understand. So I was like, I want to be the person that I needed when I was a teenager. And so I was like, I'm going to start this movement. Like, this is more than just a book. This is a movement. Like, it's happening. People are reaching out to me. And I just was like super excited. It just kind of came to me, honestly. And I was like, okay, what do I have to do to get there? Because the church movement was originally a business. It was originally LLC. And I was like, no, it moves like a nonprofit. It talks like a nonprofit. It needs to be a nonprofit. And originally it started just women, just girls. And I was like, we need to make it a nonprofit. We need to reach other girls out there in underprivileged communities, in impoverished communities, and I got a group of people together, including Sharice. Hey, Sharice. Sharice is one of the OGs. She was there from the very beginning, and I was like, okay, so this is what we gonna do. First, I went to my friend Nikki, and I asked her to be the vice president. She was like, no. So I was like, okay, boom, I got this idea, this is what we gonna do, y'all gonna be the board of directors. Like, I just started going full-fledged. And again, I'm Sharice, I hate to call you out, but me and Sharice was having a conversation. I was in grad school, and I was studying accounting. And she was talking about the CPA exam. And I was a speaker at the time, around the time the book came out. And so we were talking about the CPA exam and taking it, and she was like, no, now mind you, this is the last semester in grad school. She was like, no, I don't think you should take it. I was like, what? What you mean? Like, it's a CPA exam. Why would I not take it? I didn't go through all this or nothing. She was like, you can't see it, but I can see it, and everybody else can see the smile and the passion on your face when you're talking to other people and when you're helping other people. I think that's where your purpose is. And so with that conversation, I ran with it. And it was like this fire. I was like determined to help everybody. I was like, I gotta do this. These kids need somebody, these teenagers need somebody. We gotta help these young girls because they're going through so many things. They don't know what mental illness is. A lot of them are dealing with abuse. They don't know how to handle it. They want to talk to somebody that's been through it. Like losing a parent. I lost my dad to domestic violence at a young age. So I wanted to be able to share my story with them to let them know you're not alone. Like, I've been through some of these things. I don't understand completely how you feel, but I've been there, and I want to be able to help you. So that's how I created the church movement, and then I realized boys need help too. It's not just teen girls, it's our teen boys. Because they come from one single parent households. So I brought in helping boys, they brought in male mentors, and it's kind of took off. So now the church movement is 7 years old. I'm proud of my baby. It was created from a little and it turned into a movement. From a hashtag. It was literally just a hashtag. So now my baby's 7, and a lot of people know, but some don't. Next year I will be giving my role as president. I served 2 terms like Obama. And Christian will be taking over as president. I'll always be the founder. It will always be my baby. But it's time for me to let it go. It's grown. And it's time for new leadership. It's going into some other, and I always say that it was something bigger than us. And I say that in the book, we're creating something bigger than us. So it's like I started it, I birthed it, but I have to pass it on to somebody that's going to keep it going and make it turn it into a book. So that's why it's a chapter in the book called The Birth Movement. And I did a documentary called The Birth Movement.
One more time for the trouble group. Okay, let's talk about a bit of a more difficult topic. One of the things that you addressed and talked about in the book and we discussed here is like this journey to better understand your mental health. Going to therapy, and all that comes with that, all the tools that come with that. First of all, getting over this feeling that we as Black folks have, Black women have, seeking therapy, getting help, understanding that often we come to understand that we have experienced trauma, but a lot of us, until we are able to get that help, until we're able to talk to a therapist or a psychotherapist, a psychiatrist, or what have you, like, we don't understand the trauma that we experience, a lot of us. We just look at it as real life. Like, this is just life, and this is what happens in life. sometimes we don't understand things like what depression and anxiety is. For Black women particularly, one of the conversations that I have is I write a lot about Black women and mental illness and how a lot of times when we look at Black women, we think, oh, Black women are so mean. Black women are irritable. It means like, yeah, oftentimes what that is undiagnosed depression, undiagnosed anxiety, connected to traumas that we've experienced, but it's dismissive, and people write us off by just saying, oh, you know, Black people are just mean, they plus too much, you know. And you talk a little bit about, you talked about, because I've been a big advocate for, go talk to somebody. Don't hold that. Or much of my adult life, and try to pass it on to anyone I can. So we talk about how it was like, hey, you should go and talk to somebody about that. What has that journey through therapy been like? Do you want to talk about what you found while you were in therapy? I know you talked about that other people. And like how that process of getting that help has been a part of your transformation.
There's actually quite a few chapters in the book about the mental illness that I was going through. So I have now officially been diagnosed with anxiety disorder, PTSD, and bipolar 2 disorder. And when I was younger, not knowing what mental health and mental illness was, I was always angry. And I'm sure you'll remember that. I was always angry. It was like I always had an attitude, and I always was throwing stuff and acting out and being promiscuous, and I didn't understand why, especially after being abused at 16. So I didn't know what that trauma was. I didn't even know it was trauma. I just knew I was an angry teenager. So once I got older and I started going to therapy, it was hard for me at first because you kept, everybody kept telling me you need to get help. But I was so focused on the trouble movement. I was so focused on other things. It was like, I don't have time to go to therapy. Like, this is a waste of time. Like, I'm just going to write. I'm just going to write about it. And that's it. I don't want to talk to nobody. And my therapist plays a major role in this book. And while I'm talking to her, I realized, like, she dug into the deep root of my issues, starting with mostly my dad passing away and the way he died. So it helps when you go to therapy because, like you said, a lot of us, people write Black women off as, oh, they just mean, they got an attitude. But a lot of it is deep-rooted trauma. And unless you get help, you're not gonna, for one, know what that trauma is, and you're not gonna be able to heal from it. Because you have to find the root of the issue. I didn't know what the root of the issue was until I started going to therapy. And then that's when I realized, okay, it's losing my dad, losing all the male figures in my life at such a young age, being abused, having a difficult relationship with the family sometimes. Like, it was so much that she had to unpack, because I've been going to therapy for about 4 years now. Well, 6 years actually. So when I first went in, I was kind of like, why am I here? What do you want from me? Like, she was like, Maranda, how you doing? I was like, I'm I got a lot going on. And she was like, well, what do you feel is wrong with you? I was like, I'm not in control, and I don't like it. I feel like I'm not in control of my life. And I wanted to be in control of everything. I had to do everything. I had to be over everything. I wanted to be in control. Until I learned, like, you're not in control of your life. Hey, baby. You are not, God is in control of your life. I had to give up that control. And that was one major thing I learned in therapy, as well as understanding what a root issue is. Because if you don't find that root cause, and that root cause, you gotta go all the way back to childhood. Like, you gotta dig deep. Like, where did it start? And a lot of it, for us, started when we were children. It started with, you can have a a bad relationship with family or a parent or something and not even realize it until you go to therapy. Like, it's so much to unpack. It starts when we're young, but we don't think about it. And so since then, you know, I am on medication and I do go to therapy and psychiatrist regularly. I've learned to manage my attitude. I've learned the consequences of things, because I used to break stuff, I used to throw stuff. I was just telling Christian earlier when she was telling me about the park, and I'm like, Maranda, don't throw your phone. It's gonna be all right. I have to talk to myself, because I'm growing, but I'm still working on it. I'm still working on my anger and my attitude, because I'm quick to pop off. If you know me, then you already know, I'm quick to pop off. So I have to talk to myself, and it's something that my therapist taught me to do, was write it down. So like, a lot of us have anxiety, right? So say you're thinking about a bunch of things at one time. She was like, you write it down, even if it's random. So I'll do something like, man, I want pizza. Like, I'm bright, like, I want pizza. Ice cream sounds good. I wonder if I gotta do this tomorrow. I gotta send that email. Let me send that text message. I gotta text such and such. I gotta tell Christian this. I'll literally write it down, because I have insomnia too. So the anxiety going, it's best if you write it down. Get it out, because once you get it out, it's no longer in your mind. And that was another technique she taught me. So I've learned so many different techniques. And the thing I love about my therapist, she's not gonna tell me what to do. She's gonna make me figure it out. Because a lot of us, when our therapists be like, just give me the answer. Like, what should I do? She said, I'm not gonna answer that question. I'm gonna make you answer that question. I'm gonna give you the tools so you can figure it out. So that's how therapy has helped me. And I talk a lot about that.
I think that's so important to know, because a lot of people think when you go to therapy, it's just you laying on somebody's couch and just unloading all of this. But therapy is really about addressing our experiences, many of them that started in childhood, and learning the tools that we need in order to navigate life in a healthy way, to break trauma cycles so that we're not continuing to repeat the cycles that many of us experience in childhood.
Curses.
Yeah, so I think that's also such an important point, is that therapy is where we do tool building so that we can actually become better, healthier versions of ourselves, for ourselves first, and then for all of the people around us and for those who are coming next. What is something that we haven't discussed that you want to talk about?
We pretty much touched on everything.
I mean, we talked about celibacy and the struggle of dating while being celibate. We talked about mental illness. We talked about, I briefly mentioned the abuse. And one thing, masking. A lot of us, shout out to Smith, put these masks on. And we try to pretend to be something that we're not. And it's like, okay, I gotta put this mask on because I don't want anybody to see me struggling. I don't want anybody to know I'm struggling. And another thing that's kind of not in the book that I want to stand on is use your circle. Like, your circle, create a circle. Like, just know who your circle is. Seek wise counsel. Don't deal with it on your own. And that's what I did. Even besides therapy, you need good friends. And, I highlight Christian a lot in the book. I highlight Sharice a lot in the book because I've created this circle. Like, my friends know, I'll send you, like, a handwritten letter in the mail with, like, pictures of it. So I'll text you, like, hey, sis, you good? Like, and I don't want no, yeah, I'm good. No. Are you good? Are you okay? So it's like how they say, check on your strong friends. Because you have something like this where I was going through so much and I wasn't reaching out for help. So it's okay to reach out for help. Like, please, not even from a therapist too, but also from your friends. Like, even if you gotta, we've started Bible studies before. We've had group outings. Like, it's not always about going out. Just, me and Sharifa is often we'll go out to eat and just kind of talk. So keep your circle, lean on your circle. Y'all lean on each other. As Black women, we gotta come together. And we have to collaborate and not compete. And I see that a lot. So it's like, it's not that much of a book, but I felt the need to say it. Especially with a lot of Black women in here right now. Like, again, we have to come together. Because, the world, we already come in the world African American and women. So instead of us tearing each other down, let's collaborate. Let's check on each other. Let's make sure we're okay. And that's something that it just came to me. Like, I felt the need to say it. But like I said, it's not in the book. There's a piece of it in there, and you'll see how I recognize my friends. Because I'm also a believer, give people their flowers, so I can. Because you never know what's going to happen. You got to give people their flowers. And one thing about me, I'm going to give you your flowers, whether you take it or not. So, that was pretty much it. We pretty much touched on everything else. I did talk about a family united, which was losing my grandpa, June, and my grandmother, Bill. And I briefly spoke about that, which was hard for me because that's right around the time I started writing the book. And it's like my heart was taken from me when my grandmother died. So I used that I turned my pain into purpose. And I used that pain and that anger, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna put it in this book. I'm gonna put it in this movement. Like, I still remember my grandpa wearing the church movement shirt with his Cowboys hat. Like, back when the logo was just, oh my God, we've come so far. It's called growth. But I took that pain and I turned it into purpose. So that is the beginning, and you are gonna see me go through a transformation. And then it ends with me getting into a relationship after 6 years of missing. So you have been third to figure out what happened. And 10 years from now. Hopefully not 10.
We got 10 years, girl.
It's 11 to 21, 30.
Read the book.
They gonna be in the third
You
one.
have to start a blog,
That now is.
something.
I actually have.
Not
I actually have. I've started writing.
Oh, I thought you were saying you actually have started thinking about making some grandbaby.
No.
I mean, that's what you said. You were like, she was like, I need some grandbabies. You were like, I actually have. You better clarify.
When I said I started, yeah. No.
The book.
I started the book.
So we gonna get the book so I get the birthday.
That's what it's looking like.
No, she gonna have to pop some
No,
grandbabies.
I'm gonna have a grandbaby first
Yeah.
to show. Lord, she gonna
Do
like
we have any questions? Yes.
What is the main difference between a psychiatrist and a therapist based on your approach? Is there a difference?
Yes. A therapist is the person that you talk to. So your therapist is like who you get it out to, the person that's going to dig to the root of your issues. The person that's going to be your accountability partner. The person that's going to actually get you through it, give you methods to get through it, to give you tools to get through it. A psychiatrist is just the person that prescribes you medication. So therapists can't prescribe medication. So they're usually paired. So my therapist recommended me to a psychiatrist. I didn't want to go to a psychiatrist because when I was 16, I tried to commit suicide. So they put me in a psychiatric hospital and they put me on Zoloft and they made me a zombie. So when my therapist wanted to recommend me to a psychiatrist, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting back on medication because I had such a traumatic experience with it. And she was like, just think about it. So it took me about 1.5 years, and I finally went. They did the testing. So they test you for different diagnoses. And that's how I got diagnosed with anxiety disorder and PTSD originally. So when you read the book, you'll see the anxiety and the PTSD, but the bipolar doesn't come until later. Because my attitude just, I would be one person and then another person. So that's when I got tested for bipolar 2 disorder. So the psychiatrists, they don't talk about your issues. I know mine, I would much rather have a better one. But they're there to prescribe you the medication and kind of diagnose what's wrong with you versus your therapist is to help you get through the diagnosis. So they work hand in hand. So the therapist and the psychiatrist work hand in hand. But that's the difference. So if you're gonna have a psychiatrist, I strongly suggest you have a therapist. Because your psychiatrist isn't gonna talk to you like your therapist is. So it's better to have both. You wanna have both. Am I right, Steph? Yeah. All right. Steph is a therapist, so.
Any other questions? Any notes of congratulations or any words of encouragement that you want to offer?
Do you have any more projects coming up before we get to or anything in mind?
Not as far as book writing or just in general?
Books, journals, like Renewed Strength or something like that?
Not yet. I feel like God is gonna put something on my heart and I just don't know what it is. But not as of yet. Because I have other goals, which is, like I was telling my aunt, to create the library cafe. I want the church movement to have a community center. So my focus is kind of more there than it is with writing. Now, if something comes, tomorrow, it could be like, oh, I want to write a book about this, and I'll write. But as of yet, no, I don't have. But I am working on Triumphant right now. That's my bad.
Anyone else? Anyone?
I'll say something. Oh.
Hi. So my name is Natasha, and I met Miranda in 2016 or 2015, I think, on like the internet or something. I can't remember, but I've always been very encouraged and inspired by your journey, and just seeing how much you've gone through, and even just reading this book. I had an honor of working with Miranda to bring it to the finish line. And just reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, like what? You know, it's such a great book. It's such an amazing read. You're a phenomenal writer. You're a phenomenal businesswoman. You are a great motivator. And I just wanted to just encourage you to just keep going. I'm like so encouraged by you and your journey, and just thank you. Thank you for being so transparent. Like some of the stuff you share, I'm like, well, I could have never said that. But God made you who you are because you're the one that you have that voice, and I believe that your voice is gonna reach the generation that needs it. So keep being bold and courageous.
This is my wonderful editor. Give it up. Elohai International Publishing, yes, and media.
Oh,
Now that, you know, you stepped down from TCM's president, love you, Christian McGurk. I said love you. And then you finished, you know, this book as well, Transformation. Do you feel, or has God shown you what's next?
Rest.
Makes sense.
Because I spent all of my 20s working, creating, building. You can ask any of my friends. I don't go out. I never had a social life. I dedicated all of my 20s to creating an empire, to publishing books, to doing so many things in the community. I don't want my 30s to be like that. I want my 30s to be me. I want to travel. I want to focus on myself. I want to focus on taking care of myself because I've gotten burned out so many times. Christian has actually been temporary president before. I've had breakdowns, like, you know, you'll see in the book everything that I went through. So I want my 30s to be the years of me where I can focus on myself. That's why I want to step down, because I'm tired. And me and God made this decision years ago. I'm smart enough and I know when to step down from something instead of pushing yourself. It's okay to step down, because if I don't step down from TTM gonna go down with me. It's like I said, I did 8 years, and a lot of it I carried on my back by myself in the beginning. So I don't I'm gonna brainstorm. Like I said, I want to start the library. I want to start the community center. Like, I'm be brainstorming stuff like that. Like, what's the next big step? But I also want to focus on me. I do want to have a family soon. I do want to have.
Come on, soon.
I do want to. I see you smiling in the back, but I do want to have a family soon. I'm getting older, and so my 20s, I just spent so much time working that it's like it's the years of me. Because next thing you know, I'm gonna be in my 40s. So my 30s, it's all about me. Like, I gave TT my time. My baby grown now.
So the next step is you are the next step.
I am the next step.
Amen.
And then God, baby, we say, Lord, my.
And I got to spend more time.
One question. I was gonna say on that note,
Yeah, no, my God,
I
baby.
am my next thing and my best thing.
Oh, I love my baby.
Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly. Miranda's my mentor. I met Miranda when I was 15, I think. 15, and now I'm 22.
That's my OG.
My question is, do you feel like you'll continue being a mentor despite not being over TTM or as active in TTM as you were before? Do you feel like you're still taking more kids and mentor them on a regular basis? And be more hands-on with that aspect opposed to being more hands-on in the program itself?
Yes, I'll never stop mentoring. That I'm stepping down as president for the administrative duties and all that comes with it. I'll never stop being a mentor. I'll always be a mentor. That is my purpose. I'm gonna help as many teens as I can. Right now I have 3 mentees. My baby graduated, but because we do help 11 to 18, I love how her and Kirsten and I have teens that come back to TTM. Like, that makes me proud and even a little bit emotional that I've made such a change in their life that they actually come back. So I'll never stop being a mentor. I'm definitely gonna always be a mentor.
Hi, my name is Warren. I'm at I can't even remember. But we met at church. My son is now grown too. He's 21, lives in Germany. He's in the Air Force. And Maranda, he was in her program when he was in high school. But she's encouraged me because she told me years ago, I don't know, I think my son was probably middle school, one high school, you should write a book. And my son's like, I've been telling her to do that. I've been telling her to do that. And so now God has given me something. I'll be calling her and say, hey, let's go. Because now I'm, doing my thing. I'm in my 40s. I've been through the 20s and the 30s. I'm 44. I'm an empty nester now, so I do get it when she said it's your time. It is my time because I did all my stuff, raising my son. I put things out for myself. And so now I'm 44, so I get what you're saying. I mean, you gotta give your time, it's your time. So do your thing, girl.
Thank you. I'm so proud of my baby Josie. I had 8 of them at one time. 8 of them.
All right, well, I think that's it.
Thank you
Such a
all.
great conversation. We want to give it up to Miranda.
There, one is $20, and then you can get 2 for $35.
Okay, so one plus is $20.
It's almost Mickey.
And then you get 2 plus is $35. So that's a $5 discount. I know how.
And I have pens, custom pens for $10.
And custom pins of $10.
Yeah, you paid $10 for yours.
I did?
Yeah.
You just sent the money.
If you buy 2 or more books, you get a free pen.
And if you buy 2 or more books, you get a free pen.
Yes.
Hey, come on, let's go out and smile and support these to be physical and
It has like, thank you. I love you. Oh, I never realized. I never noticed. I really did notice. I did notice. Okay.